From the Cronkite studios in downtown Phoenix, this is Cronkite News.
President Donald Trump accuses those who launched the Mueller investigation of treason. But Cronkite News talks to experts who say the investigation may not be over.
And a few feet matter after requests from Greyhound to stop dropping migrants at their locations. Immigration and Customs Enforcement has found a way to get around the request.
Plus, could eating less meat help climate change? Before you put down that burger, hear what advocates and scientists have to say about cows' contributions to greenhouse gas.
Cronkite News starts now.
Good evening and welcome to Cronkite News on Arizona PBS. I'm Marcella Baeto.
And I'm Anthony Totri. Thanks for joining us. President Donald Trump is accusing those responsible for launching the special counsel investigation of treason.
Trump did not specify who he's referring to, but spoke to reporters Monday about it.
There are a lot of people out there that have done some very, very evil things, very bad things, I would say treasonous things against our country.
He added that those people will certainly be looked at. The comments come a day after the Attorney General told Congress that Special Counsel Robert Mueller found no evidence Trump or his associates conspired with Russia to influence the 2016 election.
Trump says that completely exonerates him. When asked about the possibility of issuing pardons, Trump also says, "I haven't thought about it." It's been almost 2 years since Special Counsel Robert Mueller began his investigation into possible Russian meddling into the 2016 election.
But Mueller's delivery of his long-awaited report Friday may not be the end of the story, as Alyssa Klink reports from our Washington bureau.
This was President Donald Trump's take on the Mueller report after he had been briefed on it yesterday.
The most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. There was no collusion with Russia. There was no obstruction and none whatsoever. And it was a complete and total exoneration.
Exoneration in the president's eyes for him, but that doesn't mean he thinks the investigation should end.
Hopefully somebody's going to look at the other side. This was an illegal takedown that failed. And hopefully somebody's going to be looking at the other side.
While his critics disagree that the president was completely exonerated, the two sides do agree on one thing. This investigation is far from over.
I think the next step is going to be to have the full findings and the report delivered to Congress, to the American public, so that everybody can make an assessment about what, in fact, Mueller found.
Right now, the full report is not available to the public or Congress. It was delivered Friday to Attorney General William Barr, who summarized the findings in a 4-page brief that was delivered to Congress yesterday. Barr's summary says Mueller found no evidence that the Trump campaign colluded with Russia to influence the outcome of the election. Barr also said that while there was no evidence the president tried to obstruct the probe, the report did not exonerate Trump of obstruction.
It's extraordinary. A special counsel doing an extensive investigation said he cannot exonerate the President of the United States from a charge that he obstructed justice. That's huge.
Baker said neither Democrats nor Republicans will move forward without reading the report in its raw form. She also said the summary is more confusing than clarifying.
Barr's letter actually opens up more questions than it answers, and so it's really, really important that the public get the findings and that congressional committees get the findings.
In Washington, Alyssa Klink, Cronkite News.
South Carolina Senator Lindsey Graham, the Republican chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee, said he hopes Barr will share as much of the report as possible with the public.
But Graham noted the report may have classified material that can't be released, and that the White House might invoke executive privilege to try to keep parts of the report private.
Soon after the Attorney General's letter was released, Arizona Congressman Andy Biggs weighed in. He is calling for the prosecution of former FBI Director James Comey for launching the Mueller probe in the first place. But Cronkite News reporter Bryce Newberry found out there doesn't seem to be any law that Comey actually broke.
Arizona Congressman Andy Biggs penning an op-ed for Fox News Channel calling for former FBI Director James Comey to be prosecuted, saying, quote, "Failure to prosecute those within our law enforcement apparatus who abused their power for political purposes by launching a baseless investigation that has torn our country apart will only perpetuate the growing cynicism in our institutions and the seemingly unbridgeable division in America." The op-ed not specifying which laws were broken. ASU law professor Paul Bender says that's concerning.
I'm really worried about Biggs making these charges in general and in the abstract without specifying what he thinks Comey did that was criminal. I didn't see anything in his op-ed that specified that, and that's a reckless thing to do. It's possible for somebody who's FBI director to commit crimes. I doubt very much whether Comey did that. He might have made a lot of wrong judgments about things, but those aren't crimes.
On Sunday, Biggs issuing a statement echoing the White House and saying the Mueller report completely exonerates President Trump and his team. U of A law professor Andrew Cohen telling Cronkite News in a statement, quote, "It is far too early for the president and his supporters to declare victory on collusion," and continuing to say that Representative Biggs is right about one thing: Congress and the public need to see the full Mueller report. Only then will we understand why he reached his conclusions and what significance we should attach to them. On Sunday, Republican Senator Martha McSally tweeting, "I am glad to see Special Counsel Mueller's investigation reach its long overdue conclusion that has wasted time and energy on issues that have made our country more divisive. Now that we close this chapter, I hope that as a nation we can focus on issues that move us forward, like affordable health care, good-paying jobs, and quality education." In Phoenix, Bryce Newberry, Cronkite News.
Congressman Biggs and Tom O'Halloran will be guests tonight on Arizona Horizon. Looking at other Arizona lawmaker reactions, Congressman Ruben Gallego tweets, "Trump literally asked the Russians to get the emails on camera. They had secret meetings with Russians that they lied about, let alone telling the Russian ambassador that he fired Comey because of the investigation. Wait for the report to come out before you get on a high horse." While Congresswoman Debbie Lesko tweets, Special Counsel Mueller issued more than 2,800 subpoenas, executed over 500 search warrants, and interviewed approximately 500 witnesses. Almost 2 years and $25 million later, no collusion or obstruction.
Hawaiian inmates housed in Arizona could be here longer. The Hawaiian governor's administration requested additional funds to house them while contractors finish repairing electronic locks and video surveillance systems at the Halawa Correctional Facility in Oahu. The administration has now spent and asked for a total of $18.7 million to house the prisoners here in Arizona. Officials say the work was projected to be completed in 2017.
For years, Immigration and Customs Enforcement in Phoenix has dropped off migrants at Greyhound stations after releasing them pending court hearings. The bus company recently asked they not be brought inside their facilities anymore. Instead, they are now being dropped off just a few feet outside, creating a whole new set of challenges. Cronkite News reporter Walter Panate takes a closer look at the legalities involved. Walter?
Dozens of volunteers have created a network responding to bus stations in Phoenix when immigrants are dropped off. Many of these families do not have money and have to wait on a relative or advocacy group to buy their ticket onto their next destination. This was the scene at one of Greyhound's bus stations in Phoenix, just moments after dozens of migrants were dropped off late last week.
Well, they're not allowed inside the Greyhound station, but we were at least at the parking lot on a sidewalk, at least against a wall where there was some shade. So now they forced us out to an intersection on a sidewalk.
On a sidewalk, even after Greyhound publicly has asked ICE not to continue its practice of dropping migrants at their locations after they've been processed for seeking asylum. Immigration attorney Ayensa Mian says ICE is able to skirt this request by dropping the migrants off on the sidewalk.
They're technically following the law. Could they do more to make sure that these people perhaps don't become victims of a crime if you're leaving them in the middle of the street? Absolutely.
Greyhound, the manager, Mr. Garcia, has said that he has spoken to ICE and begged them not to drop them off here.
Melissa Hubert is a church volunteer who helps these migrants right after they're left at these stations without money or travel arrangements made. Many of them don't speak English or Spanish, instead, indigenous languages. Volunteers are expressing their frustration with Greyhound's policy, but by law, they're not breaking any rules.
Technically, in any private property, if I don't want someone in my property, I have the legal right to refuse to allow them in my property.
In a statement, Greyhound said, if a person does not purchase a ticket or have reservations to travel that day, our standard policy does not allow them to remain in our stations as our facilities have limited capacity, end quote. However, in an email response to Cronkite News asking why the agency continues to drop off migrants at Greyhound stations, an ICE spokesperson referred us back to Greyhound, only adding, quote, we continue to work with faith-based organizations and NGOs, though when they cannot accommodate, as courtesy, we drop them off near public transportation so they can make final travel arrangements as they see fit. One of the challenges is finding a place for these migrants to sleep before sundown. If not, they'll be forced to sleep on the street.
But we need shelter. They need somewhere to sleep. So definitely City of Phoenix needs to talk to ICE, needs to figure out what's happening in their own backyard.
Migrants aren't able to pay any sort of travel arrangements while in custody. We asked ICE why this is the case. They responded they don't have the authority to detain them after they've been issued release paperwork. Also highlighting the need for what Yasmin Keefe says are better immigration laws. In the broadcast center, Walter Penate, Cronkite News.
On Friday, Governor Doug Ducey signed legislation making it a requirement to provide proof of identification to cast a ballot at an early voting center. This does not apply to mail-in ballots. This measure is targeted at early in-person voter as identification is already required on Election Day. Republicans passed the bill saying early voters shouldn't be able to go around this, while Democrats saying requiring this suppresses the voters who move a lot. Arizona requires voters to show some form of government-issued identification with a photo and address or 2 utility bills.
The Phoenix Law Enforcement Agency is hosting an all-day cookout to raise money for the family of fallen officer Paul Rutherford, a 22-year Phoenix police veteran killed while responding to a traffic accident last week. Reporter Gabriella Baccara went to the fundraiser where his colleagues and the community gathered.
He loved that interaction with the community, and he loved helping people.
Now it's the community's turn to help Officer Paul Rutherford's family, and the Phoenix Law Enforcement Association hosted this all-day cookout to do just that.
It's a really hard time, of course, it's obvious for the family. So this is another thing that they don't have to worry about.
PLE is accepting donations on the family's behalf and in return offering food to those wanting to help out.
Picking up some bacon, eggs, pancakes. Anybody who wants to come down and partake, you're welcome.
Volunteers were at the griddle all morning.
Oh, I'm making pancakes.
Christian Hessenar didn't know Rutherford personally, but thinks it's important to help a fallen first responder.
They've literally given their life, and throughout their entire years of working in the service, I think it's the least that we could do to help them out.
And for those who did know him,
I worked with Paul in 96 or 97 in the Mountain View precinct. We were young officers together. We actually rode together.
Only good things were said.
Just a really good guy. It's a huge loss for our department.
Well, we need to support our brothers and their families in this tragic time. I think it's our responsibility to take care of each other, and I would hope that if something tragic happened to me, that these same guys would be out here supporting my family and helping them through this time.
Volunteers plan on sticking around until 11 p.m.
We'll cook until there's no one else to cook for.
In Phoenix, Gabriella Baccara, Cronkite News.
If you want to make a donation but can't make it out to the cookout tonight, you can donate online at pleacharities.com. All donations will go to the Rutherford family.
Arizona has a new state parks director. Bob Brochet was appointed by Governor Doug Ducey to fill the vacancy. He graduated from Arizona State University in 1985 and worked for the State Game and Fish Department for 20 years before leading Colorado's Parks and Wildlife Department. He told the Arizona Capital Times that he hasn't yet toured all of the 35 state parks, so he doesn't quite have a favorite yet.
And a very fine good evening to you. Another gorgeous day across the Valley of the Sun, topping out in those 80s once again, just like we did yesterday. Sky Harbor still holding on to that 86-degree temperature right now. Calm winds, low dew points, just the way we like it here in the Valley of the Sun. Across the state, a little bit cooler up north, 60s in Flagstaff, down along the rim, 75 in Globe. Tucson currently sitting at 83 degrees. And as we head into those temperatures overnight tonight, we'll all be bottoming out in the 60s for here in the Valley of the Sun. 61 out in Yuma as well, in Lake Havasu City. We will see 34 in Flagstaff and one freezing spot to track for you value at the Grand Canyon overnight tonight. So coming up later in your full forecast, we'll extend these numbers out into the afternoon tomorrow and show you which spots will be flirting with 90 for the first time this year.
Coming up on Cronkite News.
The Green New Deal is encouraging people to cut meats out of their diets.
In an effort to reduce your climate footprint, find out what advocates and scientists have to say.
I'm Judy Woodruff, anchor and managing editor of the PBS NewsHour. The journalists of tomorrow face a fast-changing media landscape, but quality news remains vitally important to our communities, our country, and our world. At ASU's Walter Cronkite School of Journalism and Mass Communication, students learn solid, reliable reporting, holding the powerful accountable, and rebuilding the public's trust. The Cronkite School and Arizona PBS, preparing the next generation for a stronger future of journalism.
With wildfires, a scarcity of water, and other environmental issues facing the Earth today, it's critical to stay up to date with local impacts of a changing climate. That's why we created Elemental, covering sustainability, a multimedia collaboration between public television and radio stations. From climate change to water conservation to renewable energy and much more, Elemental covers the latest in sustainability news. Find our stories on our website, elementalreports.com.
The Green New Deal has rekindled debate over whether giving up eating beef would reduce greenhouse gas emissions. Beef cattle are the largest contributor of methane among animals, according to the Environmental Protection Agency. So now in 2017, beef cattle accounted for 72% of all methane emissions. Dairy cows only contributed to 25% of those emissions. If we consumed less beef, how much of a difference would it actually make? People cause 60% of all methane emissions, but methane emissions make up only 10% of total greenhouse gases. Now, the cars we drive are a big contributor. Industrial uses, burning fossil fuels for electricity, heat, and transportation account for almost all the increases in greenhouse gas emissions in the past 150 years. Only 9% of greenhouse emissions come from agriculture. Cronkite News reporter Gabrielle Oliveira met up with an Arizona rancher determined to defend the value of the cattle industry.
Kyle Best ranches in Amado near the Arizona-Mexico border. The cattle company he works for raises over 2,000 head of cattle.
My boys are the 5th generation in our family to ranch and cowboy, and we just had our grandson be the 6th generation.
Best says he can't imagine a world without cows.
It's our way of life. It's the only way we know how to make a living. And it's that way for all of the West and all the Midwest and everybody that's been in the agriculture business. And if you take the cattle away, it takes away our livelihood.
Most people aren't arguing that the cattle industry should disappear, but there is a conversation happening over whether going meatless can help reduce greenhouse gas emissions.
I've spent even more time trying to simply go vegan or eat more plant-based. I understand it's really hard.
Ali Stoffel studies sustainability at Arizona State University. She says the Green New Deal, a broad climate proposal which has sparked this discussion on cattle, is a good plan. She says it took her 5 years to cut out meat.
In my own experience, why I follow a plant-based diet now is because it's just the right thing to do. It feels good for your body and it's good for the earth.
Osvaldo Sala is a professor at ASU for the School of Life Sciences. He says cows aren't the biggest problem, despite the push for plant-based diets.
We all agree. The problem is that we burn a lot of fossil fuels, we burn a lot of coal, natural gas, petroleum, and we need to change our technology.
Sala isn't wrong. The largest contributors to greenhouse gas emissions are transportation and electricity. That's according to the EPA. Best says he tries to raise cattle as naturally as possible.
It is very hard to be sustainable because everything costs more and more and more. And we try to cut back on the most we can to raise the best product we can. We try to make it where our cattle are naturally grown and they grow without a lot of hormones.
Best says it's just one way that he can raise cattle in a sustainable way. And he hopes that people can appreciate that when they bite into a hamburger. In Amado, Gabrielle Oliveira, Cronkite News.
I don't know about you guys, but all this talk of an all-natural diet makes me want to go get a smoothie, sit outside in this beautiful weather.
Enjoy this weather we're having. Is it going to be staying for the rest of the week?
Oh yeah, those 80s are going to be sticking with us as high pressure continues to build in now. First of all, I want to show you this video that I took out of Bartlett Lake. Oh my gosh, the flowers are just blooming. I mean, this is like scenes out of Southern California. I mean, we have fields just covered with orange poppies about an hour north of downtown Phoenix, so pretty, very gorgeous scenery coming in up there, and it's probably going to stay there for a while as well. In fact, I mean, probably a few weeks, I think, until the sunshine here in the desert really begins to kill those flowers off. So definitely get up there and enjoy the scenery if you can get up there and see it. But again, for our forecast tonight, we're going to stay with those 80s through 7 o'clock. In fact, not falling into those 70s until we get into that 8 o'clock hour. So very gorgeous nights for dinner on the patio tonight. Now, as we talk about your forecast this week, high pressure has been dominating our skies for the past couple of days. And as we head into tonight, it's going to position itself a little bit closer to our state, which is why those temperatures are going to be going up as we head into tomorrow. Now, as we get into midweek, we will see those clouds increase as a disturbance passes up to the north, but it will stay up to the north, which means we will stay dry across the state, and those 80s are here to stay. So here's what it looks like for you hour by hour tomorrow. 60 degrees at 7 a.m., 68 by 8 o'clock, 70s kick in at 10, and then we'll see those 80s kick in by 12 o'clock tomorrow, topping out around 87 at 4 or 5 p.m. Some spots around the valley are going to be flirting with the 90s. As we talk about that UV index going with an 8 tomorrow at 1 p.m., which means sunburn can begin to set in 15 minutes. Make sure you have that sunscreen with at least SPF 30 or higher on if you're going to be outside. Highs around the valley going to be in the 80s, 88 in Chandler, 88 in downtown Phoenix. We're going to go with 89 in Laveen. They could easily hit 90 tomorrow afternoon. And then across the state, so a couple freezes to track for you, one freeze I should say to track for you up at the Grand Canyon at 32, 44 in Heber, 51 in Globe, 61 here in the Valley of the Sun, and then those high temperatures across central Arizona all getting up to those upper 80s, 89 in Tucson, 89 in Yuma. Some of these spots likely to hit 90 degrees for the first time of 2019 tomorrow. 60s up in Flagstaff down along the rim, so any snowfall that's left up there in the high country is not going to be sticking around much longer as those temperatures will continue to warm up. Your 7-day forecast is going to keep those 80s with us through midweek. We'll see those breezes pick up on Thursday as a cold front pushes through with that disturbance passing by to the north. 84 Friday, Saturday, Sunday will keep those temperatures well above average heading into the weekend.
Coming up next on Cronkite News.
A former online student who turned to the internet to avoid the pressures of high school is now paying it forward.
Learn how she decided to make a difference by heading back to her old high school.
Stay in the know on the go. At Cronkite News, we work hard to report the facts and keep you updated, whether we're on set or on the scene.
Taking it from the studio to the field. So I'm here in South Phoenix.
In Phoenix, we're just a click away. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, or find us online at cronkitenews.azpbs.org.
If you're looking for one show that tells you what happened that day in the world of business, it's NBR.
We saw a classic shipwreck.
Nordstrom's opening stores.
Triple-digit gains.
Crude climbs.
We're there to help our audience find new investment ideas.
The market still has room to go up.
Nightly Business Report is the longest-running business television program in history.
Weeknights at 10:30 on Arizona PBS.
Students with disabilities may find a better schooling environment online. For a former online student who turned to the internet to avoid the pressures of an in-person class, that decision led to a career. Sammy Giebers talked to a registrar of the Arizona Virtual Academy who is back at the high school that gave her an environment she thrived in.
Hi, this is Brianna with the Arizona Virtual Academy.
Life is busy for an online high school registrar.
I'm gonna work on transcripts, I'm gonna fix photos for compliance, I'm gonna do some filing.
And Brianna Curtis doesn't let being hard of hearing stop her from answering the phone and talking to students all day long.
Well, I hope you have a good afternoon.
There are only a few months left before online students at Arizona Virtual Academy graduate. So Curtis fixes up diplomas to send off. It was only a few years ago that someone from the same office she's working at now
I'm gonna go check her folder.
Was packing up a graduation diploma for her.
She's very enthusiastic, and that's what I love. And she was very enthusiastic, especially because she is a graduate of Arizona Virtual Academy.
I have my class of 2012 yearbook, and it's so unique that you wouldn't think like an online school would have one. but we do.
Curtis has come back to the online high school that she says has given her so much.
This environment really just worked. You'll no longer be, I don't know, put down or have any pressure because of your disability.
While Curtis says that being hearing impaired wasn't the motivation behind signing up for the online school, she believes the virtual platform allowed her to excel. And Curtis isn't the only one who has found this to be true. K-12, which powers the Arizona Virtual Academy, reported that 26% of parents of high school students enrolled their children because their student had special needs.
The most equal environment you will be in. I could be a professional filer if that's the position we have, but we don't have it, so.
At the beginning, yeah, she was pretty much kind of in her own little shell. She's definitely come out of her shell.
Constantly being challenged. Like at first I was afraid to take phone calls, and now I can take a phone call and be okay with it. Hi, this is Brianna with the Arizona Virtual Academy.
Curtis found a lot of success at the online school.
And I got something for her.
And now she's helping others do the same. In Phoenix, Sammy Giebers, Cronkite News.
Cronkite News is proud to be the news division of Arizona PBS. Here's what's coming up on Arizona Horizon and PBS NewsHour.
On the next Arizona Horizon, State Supreme Court Chief Justice Scott Bales is retiring from the bench. He'll join us to look back on his career and how social psychology and marketing influence consumer behavior.
I'm Judy Woodruff. On the next NewsHour, the latest on what we've learned from Special Counsel Robert Mueller's final report. That's Monday on the PBS NewsHour.
That's it for Cronkite News tonight. Thanks for joining us.
For top Arizona stories anytime, go to cronkitenews.azpbs.org.